education. Even the proprietors of private schools are also allowed for representatives. So ministers of education do not make policies, but rather they chair the National Council of Education where policies are being made. And I also want to correct the impression my colleagues say that people sit in their offices and churn out policies. That is not correct. Take, for example, before the issue of introducing new subjects, it was agreed in the National Council of Education that these subjects would not be implemented since 2007, but gave time lag into which the states or the operators would have to train the teachers in these areas. 2007, this policy came up, but it started implementation 2011. And that this vocational subject she's talking about has been optional. Now, the argument being that we must have to introduce trade subjects or entrepreneurial subjects in schools so that it's not properly for you to be in school and then read courses that will not aid you when you come out tomorrow. So the essence of that was to introduce subjects or courses that will help the students. So when they come out, instead of furthering the education, they may want to, with the skills they have, they may want to be dependent on their own. So the issue of checking out policies by those who sit in the offices is not correct, because policies on education being made by the National Council of Education, representatives of all the states, commissioners of education, all the agencies under the ministries. So policies are not, it is not the issue of how many ministers, because it's not ministers that make policies.
Minister, thank you very much. And Professor Banjo, if I can bring it back to you before I get the Mr. Vice President to close out on the policy discussion. Perhaps you can just take us through the task team, the key recommendation out of the policy side of the presidential task team on education. If there was one thing that we could execute on now to make a change, what would that be in terms of recommendation?
Well, it's first to return to what we used to do before the military came to power. And I was part of it. That is, there is a professional committee, then joint consultative committee before the National Council. And to make sure that states do their preparatory work so that they don't go back saying we don't know about it. What has happened in the last 15 years is to say the federal government is forcing it on us, and the federal government to say they are not buying in. I think the process of buying in should start from the level. Second aspect of it is to enlarge the scope of consultation. Policy dialogues open like this as a general process. And part of it also is to make information readily available. And not to say, we've got it. No, let me press my button and find it. I will stop there.
Mr. Vice President, also highlighted throughout the task team documentation is the insinuation that there is a lack of political will to change education for the better. Do you believe that that is the reality, sir?
Thank you. That is totally wrong.
We didn't say that.
With this administration, there is a transformational agenda by Mr. President to transform the educational sector. And in that regard, you will recall at all instances, education has been put as the key factor of the development of this country and for the achievement of our transformation agenda, such that Nigeria will be among the most 20 developed nations by the year 2020. And the theme has been education, 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 and education. So the transformation for the achievement of this objective, as you are aware, the Presidential Task Team on Education has come up with guidelines, and implementation has been going on. And the way we are going now is in the right direction, so that we'll be able to achieve that objective, that we have students that are passing out of our various levels of education to participate in the development of this country. The transformation agenda on education is global, and in line with that, other sectors of the economy of the country are also being transformed. I'll give you an example. The unfortunate incident that is global of job creation. You see, there are factors over time that have been militating against growth of various nations, including Nigeria. And part of the transformation agenda has been that we have identified these sectors. Say, for example, the power sector, the electricity power sector. These have been completely transformed, is privatized, and the kind of results we are receiving today is such that it is clear that within a very short period, we will address that challenge and have adequate power supply. And if you ask the economists, I'm not an economist, but they will tell you, once we achieve this objective, there will be huge opportunity of jobs, there will be development in different sectors, and that will create that opportunity for jobs for our graduates. Also, take, for example, the sector on the transport sector, where we are now redeveloping our railway system, we are dredging our rivers, we are building new ports, we are building roads. So the transport sector, which is a sector that has also been militating against the economic growth, will open opportunities for growth. In the industrialization plan, just recently, Mr. President launched the new plan for industrialization. We believe that for this country to achieve our developmental objective, we have to reform our industrial sector. I'm pleased that the chairman of Dangote Group is here. Only a few years, 2009, 2010, this country was almost a net importer of cement. But today, we are proud that we have met our total requirement by the policy of government, and so therefore have allowed greater opportunity for job creation in that sector by meeting that demand. We have reformed the policy in the transport sector where we are encouraging the production of all our requirement of vehicles in the country. We are reforming the agricultural sector. We are opening all these sectors, which, of course, it is the education sector that will feed this area, and then we'll have opportunity for jobs. And even for those, some of those will develop their skills and be, employers themselves. So this is the direction we are going.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. There, I think clearly setting out that there is the political will to change the education agenda in Nigeria for the better. I want to throw out there now and bring Miriam back into the discussion. A couple of concerning statements in the task team report on education that pertain to the status of a teacher within the Nigerian society or Nigerian society at large. And I'll throw out a couple of them. Being a teacher means committing yourself to a life of poverty. Those who can't teach. And teachers' benefits are waiting for them in heaven. Directly out of the task team, presidential task team on education. And Miriam, I'd like to just perhaps ask you to come in at this stage, and is that the reality, or have these been taken out of context?
It's very much a reality. The teaching profession is a last resort for a lot of people. They see it more as a stepping stone, a transition to another better, greener pasture. We conducted a survey of our students to know, what professions they would like to go to when they leave school. Of course, the usual, like many of the members of the audience, you would hear, want to be a doctor, lawyer, CEO of a business. Not a single student mentioned becoming a teacher. Unfortunately, there is no incentive. We've seen cases where parents have slapped teachers It's a reality, even in private schools. You see it, of course, in public schools. The corruption is so bad when it comes to things like exam malpractice. You see teachers extorting money from students, all the way up to the tertiary institutions. So there is absolutely no respect. We in the private sector believe that for a teacher who is really good, a promotion is not to move into administration, which is often the case. A promotion for a good teacher is not to go and become a vice principal or go become a lecturer. If you're really good at it, stay. So we pay them well to stay and do what they do very well because they are invaluable to our society. Private schools, some private schools, give them car loan, housing loans. We have teachers who have been with us for over 16 years, and they are our most valuable assets because of the continuity, because of the investment.
Miriam, can I ask Professor Amin to give us a view of a tertiary institution here?
Yeah.
And the status attributed to professors, to teachers within the system?
I think it's very much the same at all the levels. I mean, the teaching profession is, as she said, a last resort thing to many people. And the thing with university teachers is that a lot is expected of you, and at the same time, you realize that at the end of the day, as some people say, your take-home pay will not take you home. So that is an issue, but many people are there out of interest, and because of that, they are able to make a difference in whatever the situation is. So I think that the lot of the teachers need a lot of improvement.
Alex, I'm going to swing this back to the private sector. How do you feel about the descriptions being thrown around the teaching profession?
Yes, I think it's consistent with what I said earlier. When I asked the question about who the teachers are, she's right about the teaching profession not attracting the right talents. And if you have to, if you need a policy that would tie the products of schools to jobs that are being created, then you need teachers who are knowledgeable. You need teachers who can also interact with industry. Now, if the kind of teachers you have are people who take it because they don't have an alternative, not because they are interested in it, because you don't pay well, because the conditions of service are not good, then you are going to end up with very bad products. And that's exactly what is happening in Nigeria today. And I think we need to rethink it. We need to fund education properly. I really don't accept sometimes there's so much argument about government not being in a position to fund education. If we can't fund education, then we shouldn't fund defense, we shouldn't fund presidency, we shouldn't fund anybody at all. Because I think quite frankly, that it is fundamental to our existence, education. And when you talk about SMEs, it is true. You have people come out from schools. They're all looking for jobs which they won't get or which are non-existent. And because they've not been trained to even be independent, to set up things for themselves, you have the kind of experience that we had on Saturday. And that's just a tip of the iceberg. If you do it again, you have hundreds of thousands of people coming to apply for 4,000 jobs. It's serious.
Alex, the minister has indicated he'd like to respond at this stage.
I want to make a contribution as regards to the status of teachers. And let me just start from the tertiary level, because we also talk about funding, and I'm happy Mr. Alex has said that money alone cannot solve problems. Take, for example, in the tertiary institutions, universities. Is it that the lecturers are not well paid, and that's why they are producing not good graduates? Is it because there are no incentives for them? That's why there is so much corruption? I was in the University of Ibadan last week, and the Vice Chancellor told me that there was a teacher, a professor, who had retired for the past 15 years. and he's still in the campus and the building of the government. He said, this is his own incentive, that he was not going to leave the house. Lecturers are consultants, doing all kinds of works. Yet, who are these people producing these bad graduates? So it is not merely payment of money. Take, for example, those teachers who were committed before, how much were they being paid? What was their salary? It has to do with commitment. Take, for example, in the federal government colleges, you are graded according to the ministry scale or civil service scale. And most of the directors who are in the ministry today were once teachers in the schools. And they go to a level that they have to bring them back to the ministry.